is our responsibility. Now we move to the rehabilitation phase of Haiti. What can we do at this stage? And that's where we have to, as a society, as a community, think about what options we have. Be a part of the rehabilitation process, but when we talk about rehabilitation, we have to think of a long-term solution. We have to have capacity building. End of the day, we have to come up with a plan which would allow people to be able to fish rather than get fish from us. And we have to create projects and some things which would allow us to do that. And we have to, if we are going to do something, it's going to invest a lot of time and effort and money in some of the cases. Then it has to have a high return on investment. And again, you have to have the people become self-sufficient. And if we keep some of these things in mind as some work that you want to be able to do, then you try and see what could be the best thing that would fulfill some of these criteria. We also want to do something, we want to create a model for others to follow. And it has to be acceptable to the local community. It has to be implementable, and it has to be sustainable. So if we can put all of these thoughts together, what are the needs over there? The ground reality, and that was quite concerning to me, one of the pictures of the beautiful faces of the children, and you will see a lot of beautiful faces of the children around in the tables as well of some of the children over there. Since the earthquake, the children have not gone to school. There are no schools, there are no homes. There are tent cities, and there are no structured systems in place. So if you get a child out from school for 3 months, they may forget what studies and education was like. And then you don't want to lose a generation in the process. And that is, to me, a critical thing that needs to be looked at. And also the other aspect is that the skill sets that the children have, the adults have, are not there. So you'd see people selling things on the street, fruits and so on. And which is good that you're not asking for money, but you're trying to do work. But if the same people had skills, those skills would be able to help them improve their capacity to survive better and be stronger as a society. And the perception of safe areas is a big concern. What I mean by safe areas is everybody is scared of their homes, because it wasn't the earthquake that killed them, it was their own homes that killed them. So people actually don't sleep in their homes, they're sleeping outside in a tent because they feel that's the fear of the home. Now, the hurricane, unstable homes, the feeling of a perception of this not being a safe environment is a big issue for this community over there. So again, keep in mind that the clock is ticking for the hurricanes to be impacting people as well. So the solution in my mind was to think about a Haiti school which is going to be named after the town of South Windsor. Our community, the town of South Windsor, you know it, this is the best town in the world as far as I'm concerned. The reason is, if you look at the number of people who are doing different things together, they're collaborating. If you look at the energy that our town has, it's very impressive. You have so many different clubs doing so many different things. And if everybody says, you know what, let's get together. Let's get together as a community and do our little part. Because if there's a club which deals with making paintings, if a club that deals with gardening work, if there's a club that we have the Lions Club, we have other Rotarians over here, we have so many small groups, and if everybody collects together and says, we will take the ownership on fixing one thing and one thing which is going to give us the highest return for the people in Haiti, we'll create a model. Nobody else has ever done this before. And if anybody's capable, I think our town is most capable of doing this. So that's the hope that now we do this in the following way. The containers are the containers that you see in the big ships. The ships have these containers, they're made of metal. Now, how do I know that? Well, one of the places, Maurice is over here, Maurice's sister, she said, I'm not going to sleep in my own home. We were sleeping in her home, but she wasn't willing to sleep in her own home because she felt that the walls can go down, the ceiling is going to fall over, and so they had to order a container to keep in the house to be a safe place. And that's the mindset that people have. So we said, well, let's put these containers, have enough of them together to make a school. And this container, which is a fact, it is somewhat hurricane proof, and it is also earthquake proof. And it is very fast that you can actually get the container into a place, you make it secure, and you actually make appropriate ventilation and light and electricity setup, you've got a class. and literally, if you have the right workers, you can do it in a week's time to get a container ready, cleaned up, and get that. So that's the idea. People have done similar things in the past, and if we can work out a way that we create the containers, set them up in such a way that there is ventilation, they are appropriate, we would be able to create a model of schools which are going to be set up by a town, and then that will allow children to be able to get some normalcy for many years, because it is not like a tent where it's going to go away. In the same way, the length is about some 20 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet on the inside height and width. So it's a reasonable size place for getting about 16 to 20 children, small children, in a class with appropriate ventilation, and setting that up. Again, if you were to have 6 containers, because of 6 classes, have land is leased, it is the containers are adjusted for ventilation and electricity. There's ongoing supplies. Now, once I know for a fact that if we have the name of South Windsor community behind a school, we are going to have people who are endlessly giving, people who are going to say, you know what, we own this. If the high school kids want to do some project, they're certainly going to do the project in Haiti. If the middle school children want to do a project, they're going to say, we are going to do a project in Haiti because this is our school. That ownership, that community, we are going to be able to have a win-win strategy like maybe nobody else has had in the recent past. And it would be something that all different groups, if there are any groups who don't get along well with each other, they would agree on this. And I don't know there are many groups that are out who are not agreeing with each other on good things. And that's why I think this is a need for Haiti, but I also think it's a need for us. I went there, I thought I'm going there to help them, but actually people were helping me. And in so many ways. And that's similar to maybe we can do a little bigger picture, and maybe the Haitian people will help us as well to grow as a community internally, and hopefully feel proud of who we are. The other thought was, how can we maximize our benefits? So if we have the school in the morning, we can actually have priority 1, set up the school, and then in the afternoon use the same facility for vocational training. By vocational training we mean, well, you can have the computer literacy. So if the same person who is trained how to use the computer, they're actually going to be doing somewhat better. And then we know there have been initiatives to try and move some of the business from the United States to Haiti to help the people out as well. If we had trained individuals, workers who were trained in doing sewing machines and training sewing, they would be able to do much more. And that's what is needed. So again, theoretically, we can even try to educate people about healthcare if you have a facility. And theoretically, and I'm just saying theoretically because it's difficult to implement, you can have that as a shelter. Now in the midst of a hurricane where you have nothing else available, maybe that the same place can work as a shelter for, as opposed to other things that would not be available. So how do we implement this? The way we implement this, and then we have some of the guests over here who are and Haitian American community members. Now Maurice is over here, and then she is the president of Arm to Arm, and I think we have Yvonne over here who's the president of the Connecticut Haitian American Association. So and these are the people we went with, and we have had in that week or so we were there, we had any experience you can imagine between being lost, being hungry, being crying, and all sorts of situations. So we have a trust as far as the capacity of people to do things. And the partnership to implement a project has to be coming from the Haitian American community because they are the front line. And the Haitian Americans settled in Haiti, they are also a front line. If we have them as partners, we have an opportunity of implementing things better. So with that in mind, we have the Francois and Leslie were 2 individuals who we stayed with at their home, and they were the ones we have been working and looking. They would be the ones who can implement this whole project. If the checks are to be made for this project, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a second, they could be made to Arm, but there's going to be a special account set up called South Windsor account, and it will be made mailed to this. You'll have this information, and we'll talk a little bit about this further for people who want to contribute or who want to take ownership, or the different clubs in South Windsor who are interested to make this difference. We'll be able to work with them. Individuals planning to visit, if we go in a coordinated fashion,